Hi there. Welcome Behind the Glasses with Sam J. I'm definitely not Sam J. Hello everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to episode number 2 Behind the Glasses with Sam J. I just want to thank you for tuning into the first episode and give me some feedback. It was much appreciated. I'm going to add it into my future projects. And I just want to thank you for your continued viewership, and let's do the damn thing. Batting leadoff today, while I'm wearing my Raptors hat, the NBA just announced the starting 5 for each conference's all-star team and the team captains as well. So we're going to start with that news coming in hot and heavy today. For the East, we have the two guards, Trae Young, Kemba Walker, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and our boy, a Spicy P, Pascal Siakam. We got to vote Kyle and Freddie in for the reserves now. Get the votes coming. For the Western Conference, we have Luka Doncic and James Harden at the guard spots, LeBron and Kawhi at the forward spots, Anthony Davis at the center spot. LeBron being the team captain for the West, and Giannis being the team captain for the East. Now, the starting 5 doesn't really matter too much for each conference because in the past couple years, they've decided that the starters and then the reserves get kind of picked in a draft. Where like LeBron or Giannis, I'm not sure if it's the first pick yet, they'll draft a certain player, then they'll go back and forth and filling up their team. So the starting 5 for the East doesn't necessarily mean that all of the East players will be playing together. So that's a different kind of asset they've added into the All-Star game, try to make it much more fun, because myself personally, I'm not a big All-Star game person myself. Sure, they're fun for the players, but I personally want to see all the best players compete against each other at a high level, albeit the games might not mean anything, but as fans, it's a nice treat. I feel like the starting 5 in the West, it's pretty solid 5. I don't think there's any kind of snubs or question marks there. However, for the East, I do have maybe one concern. I like Kemba Walker. He's been doing very well. Solid player. He deserves to be in the reserves, no doubt. But the starter, I don't know. I like Jimmy Butler. I felt like he got snubbed. I felt like he could have made it very easily. What he's done with that Miami team has been very admirable, and the whole team's just kind of rallied behind him. He could make his way into MVP conversation possibly. Who knows? We'll see, but that's the only kind of change I'd find there. You're going to see next episode, I'm going to do my mid-season breakdown of who I think the MVP is, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, maybe a finals prediction, maybe the first one. We'll see. I want to talk a bit more of something coming up this weekend, because the NBA All-Star Weekend isn't for another few weeks, so we have a few more weeks we can kind of talk about and get your guys' feedback. We can kind of build some more All-Star talk, because some trade rumors are probably coming up pretty soon. But I want to switch gears to NFL and the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl lineups and everything have been announced. Now that all the teams are set with Super Bowl, we have the 49ers versus the Chiefs. I'm going to do a Super Bowl breakdown show, probably release it maybe a few days before the Super Bowl to get my prediction in time. Comment below who your Super Bowl prediction is, or if there's any All-Star snubs in the NBA, or I'm going to go with some Pro Bowl snubs. Comment below as well. But the NFL Pro Bowl, it's something honestly I haven't actually watched the game in probably a few years. Just like I said before, my All-Star point, like I feel like the Pro Bowl is not one of those things. It's like playing a game of two-man touch football. It's like they're just dicking around in the backyard, which again sometimes it's fun. Players kind of let loose and just hang around, shoot the shit with the other players. Whatever, it's all right. But sometimes I want to see all these really good players actually play really well against each other. It'd be a very entertaining game. The Pro Bowl now, the skills challenges, they've gotten better over the years. Like not quite the ones of the years past, where I actually enjoyed them, the ones of years past. But these newer ones, it's like a dodgeball game and a couple other things like that, which again, kind of fun, just something for player morale and league morale to show that they can have fun. But for the Pro Bowl rosters, I'm not going to get into too much detail or depth of like some of the defensive players or like all the numbers, but there's a few players that I stood out to me that I feel like got snubbed and definitely could be swapped out. So I found a player on each conference, AFC and NFC, who I felt who should have been a Pro Bowl player, but they got snubbed. They didn't make it for whatever reason. And I'll start in the AFC. Overall, all these picks are fine. Just the one snub, again, maybe just because he was part of the Baltimore Ravens. But there's 13 Baltimore Ravens players going. So that's sometimes a few players just kind of get tossed in there just because they're on a good team. AKA you're playing with Lamar Jackson, so you're probably pretty good. I feel like at the tight end position with Mark Andrews, great tight end in fantasy, gets a lot of touchdowns. But there's another tight end that came along throughout the whole year, and on a team that nobody really thought would do as well as it did, would be Darren Waller from the Oakland Raiders. He put up only 3 touchdowns, but 90 catches, over 1,000 yards, about 12.5 yards a catch, and that's pretty solid. If you look at Mark Andrews' numbers, 64 catches, 852 yards, but 10 touchdowns. So the touchdowns probably got him the nod over Darren Waller, but I feel like I would have no problem pushing those 2 guys. And again, Andrews is probably a top 5 tight end, top 10 for sure tight end in the league, and Waller's right in that group now after this year on a surprisingly alright Oakland team. Yeah, I was surprised when I said that myself too, because the Raiders have always just kind of sucked, right? And over to the NFC now. In the NFC, this one was, I felt, more harder, because I feel like the NFC has a lot more depth than when we start looking at all the teams and all the skill positions as well. But I'm going to go with the running back position. And I feel like this one strikes a personal chord with me. If you played fantasy football with me this year, you'll definitely know. Alvin Kamara should not make the Pro Bowl. He was on my fantasy football team this year, and he did not help me out one bit when I drafted him in the first round. Having Alvin Kamara all year in fantasy football was scary. He didn't get a touchdown from week 3 to, I believe, week 16. So by then, the fantasy playoffs are pretty much done. My season's already done. My year was not good. I'll be honest about it. But there's always next year, right? Kamara, we see 797 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Not bad. Whatever, he kind of shared the backfield duties with Latavius Murray. You think he was banged up for a game or two. It is what it is. On a pretty good New Orleans team. But he had 81 catches for 533 yards and 1 more touchdown. So 6 total touchdowns. Back ending on my pick of Mark Andrews with his total touchdowns. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones on the Green Bay Packers. He had a great year in terms of fantasy, and just out of nowhere out of that Green Bay backfield, they finally have a legitimate running back in Green Bay. Yeah, he went over 1,000 yards rushing, 16 rushing touchdowns. Kamara only had 6 total touchdowns, so he had 16 rushing touchdowns. Like I said, over 1,000 yards, pretty much 50 catches and 474 yards, and 3 more touchdowns. So 19 touchdowns, and he's not in the Pro Bowl. Come on. I know Aaron Jones didn't have the best playoff games, but he got a few touchdowns in those games, so he's a very important player on that Green Bay team, and also he can get in the end zone. That's how you win games. You get in the end zone more than the other team. This is how it goes. So I feel like that was a bigger snub than the Darren Waller and Mark Andrews one, but I feel like that was a snub as well. However, I'm going to throw in an honorable mention as well, at least in the running back position in the NFC. Chris Carson had a phenomenal year on a Seattle team that was pretty darn good. Like Russell Wilson had a solid year as well. But Chris Carson, I did not see him having this good a year. He should have been a Pro Bowl player as well, but they only have, I think, 3 spots for the running backs, and the skill positions are always a log jam, whether it's the quarterback, receiver, or running back, and then the tight end. 2 best tight ends in the league, in my opinion, are in the Super Bowl. That's George Kittle and Travis Kelce. I'll talk about them in my Super Bowl prediction show / breakdown show. I'm going to break down all the positions for you on each team and see how they stack up against each other, then give you my personal pick and maybe possibly a score prediction. You get a score prediction, you say. The Pro Bowl being played this weekend, I'm picking the AFC 38, the NFC 28. That doesn't mean anything. So, also, no segue at all, but we're just going to jump into my last kind of topic of the day. I kind of want to get wrapping this up here. I want to start editing this video because I'm going to be going out of town for the weekend, so I want to get this out to you guys to watch for the weekend. Probably Monday or Tuesday, I'll have another video up for you guys. But I'm going to jump into Major League Baseball. I have a few topics I want to talk about in Major League Baseball, albeit I'm going to go over them just briefly, then I'm going to go into them each in depth just in a few moments here. I'm going to talk about the Blue Jays' new uniforms, / some more Blue Jays things going on. We'll get into that. The Houston Astros and how much they've cheated and all that hoopla. We'll get into that. And yeah, then we'll maybe touch on the season preview I'm going to do. We'll see how that goes as well. and because I'll probably get into the fantasy baseball as well this year, so I'll be talking about that as well. Blue Jays new uniforms. Now the new uniforms actually look all right. They're trying to look modern, but still have that vintage look to them, reminiscent of like the 92, 93 teams, the older Blue Jays logos, and the color schemes as well, with like kind of like the powder slash electric blue color, which actually looks nice. I'm going to pop up some pictures here just so you guys get a kind of a visual feature, or you can just Google Blue Jays new uniforms. But I kind of like them. Now, the Houston Astros. This one's interesting. People are going to call them the Houston Asterisks. It's one thing to take steroids and cheat in baseball, because some people always make fun of baseball being boring and whatever. I personally love the game. I love that it takes a bit longer than most sports games, and there's depth to it. But I feel like the way the Astros cheated is something you just don't do in sports, really. Like I said, it's one thing to juice yourself up and hit a ball out of the park 70 times a year. You get 70 home runs, strike out 300 guys, and just be amazing. Cheating by videotaping people and like having like a buzzer on you when they know what pitch is being thrown, like that's just not what the game's about. It's not setting a good example for the young kids trying to idolize these players. It's not setting a good example for the league allowing this. Kind of smart for the Astros to keep getting away with it, and they won some World Series, so it worked. But luckily, they had the talent to do it. But I feel like that's just something that in baseball you just don't do. In sports in general, actually. Bottom line, they cheated. They should maybe talk about revoking the rings or fining them, big suspensions. Like, that's a no-no. You have to lay the hammer down so that nobody else even thinks of doing this again, because it looks bad on the game of baseball. And a game that's trying to change stuff and make a whole lot better, trying to bring in a new fan base. This is not the story you want out, that there's cheating involved for teams out of one. It's one thing to get caught cheating and you suck and you're already losing. That's kind of whatever. But if you're cheating and you're winning a championship, that ain't right. That's a slap in the face to all the other players busting their ass trying to get to that goal, and to the fans who put their hard-earned money and time and devotion into loving these teams and players for just to cheat. That's a straight-up slap in the face. If I was a Houston Astros fan, I'd be pretty pissed, I'm not going to lie. But I'm not one of them. I'm a Blue Jays fan. Speaking of Blue Jays fans, the spring training starts in about a month, I think. So probably a bit, maybe around spring training, I'm going to start getting into some previews of the Blue Jays year and the whole MLB year in general. Again, thank you for your continued viewership. Look out for a Super Bowl preview show I'm going to be doing within probably the next week. You can look out for that. And, have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in.